It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling. Come and join us for another ride in the team bus. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on professional bike races, teams, riders, and all sorts of cycling-related stories. And we might just sprinkle in some other shiny pop cultural objects along the way. So jump in the saddle and tighten up those shoes. The road awaits. Allez!
Hello and welcome to the Team Bus. I'm Justin, and this is my brother Matt. And today on the bus, we boldly step into our second year of podcasting with a return to our roots of sorts as we take a look at a classic American film centered on cycling. 1 year ago, on our very first episode, we reviewed the Kevin Costner film American Flyers, a blind spot for us both and a fitting start for our show. Today, we're digging deep into a more beloved and essential film in the cycling movie canon, 1979's Breaking Away, directed by Peter Yates and starring Dennis Christopher, Dennis Quaid, and Daniel Stern. This beloved coming-of-age film arguably launched the careers of these, at the time, very young actors, and remains a touchstone classic in the landscape of cycling films, and indeed sports films in general. We'll also have a roundup of current cycling news items, and as always, we'll finish out with more Year 2 adventures in the Broom Wagon. Allez! Welcome to the show, everyone. I think we'll just get right into it. Matt, where do you want to start with Breaking Away?
Start at the beginning. My history with this film goes back. I definitely remember seeing this movie probably when I was in my 20s, I would guess. I was always kind of aware of it for about as long as I can remember. I remembered watching it because when I was rewatching it this time, a lot of stuff was very familiar to me instantly. The characters, the young Daniel Stern especially, it was like, oh yeah, right, yeah. I have to say, I really think this is a great film. There's just, it's very conventional, but it has laughs, it has some drama, and it's a really cool location, as I'll get into, and it's fun to see a couple of these actors that have gone on to much bigger careers, when they're just right on the cusp of gaining pretty big stardom. So I really enjoyed the rewatch, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. How about you? What have you ever seen it before?
No, I had never seen it. So, and I had literally no idea who was even in it. Like I literally knew nothing before I clicked play. It was cool to see that, Dennis Quaid and Daniel Stern were in there. I was super thrilled to see that Jackie Earle Haley was one of the four, who, that's, for people that know who Jackie Earle Haley is, he's a great character actor. He's been in a bunch of things, but he was Rorschach in Watchmen, which was, a seminal comic book movie. I'm a huge comic book fan. But then
the movie, not the miniseries.
The movie, not the miniseries. Yes, the movie, not the miniseries.
That was like a Zack Snyder thing.
Yes,
right?
It was a Zack Snyder thing. You got that exactly right. But then Dennis Christopher being in the lead. Dennis Christopher is in one of the most terrifying things that I can remember as a child, which was the TV miniseries of It, which was the Tim Curry version of It, which when I was a kid, there wasn't anything scarier to me petrified of clowns.
When John Ritter's like rolling down the street in the car, and Pennywise is just like standing there on the side of the road, like smiling and waving at him. Oh my god,
Yeah,
it just
and
gives
like
me chills
the
just
red
thinking about
the
it.
red balloons, and like talking to the kid from the sewer. But
Yeah.
he played Eddie Casbrick in It, like the older version of Eddie, and was so good in it. So like that dude has been in my in my lexicon for just since I was a child. So it was really cool to see him as the main character in this. Like I said, I had no idea. I thought it was really cool. I was like really pumped that I was like, oh, cool. I get to see these actors that I have known very well over the years in what is like one of the first things that they've done. And so it was really interesting to kind of like start it off that way. I had zero idea of what the plot was, so it was like unfolding for me the entire way through.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Um, yeah. So you want to just kind of like roll through it, from start to finish as far as the movie goes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we could start with the setting. So it's like a college town, and it's centered on townies, which is interesting because it's funny too because it hits home for me because I live in a college town,
Mm-hmm.
and would be considered a townie at this point after living here for 20 years.
When I was in college, I was totally at a college that was like that. I was a college student. I was one of the douchebags and not the cool, townies. And, we talked a lot of shit about townies and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. It kind of brought me back.
Yeah, it's a very interesting feeling to be on the cutter side, which I didn't. By the way, you would think that I would have picked up on why they were called cutters so much faster, but like it. I mean, it was like probably 2/3 into the movie when the dad is at the rock cutting spot.
The quarry.
Would that be considered the quarry?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's all at the quarry.
So he's at like the quarry, and I'm like, oh, it's because they're cutting the stone. That makes sense. But so, it pretty much starts out with the kid on the bike, and
No, it starts off at the rock quarry. That's the opening scene, which I want to talk about because first of all, you get like Dennis Quaid, like this very young Dennis Quaid, who's like singing some song or whatever, and you're like, damn,
that's right. They're like walking through the woods.
Hell of a voice.
That's right.
Daniel Stern does some singing later on, and Jackie Earle Haley does, or no, who's the main character?
Dennis Christopher.
He does some singing as well. They got some great singing voices, and you can just tell like these guys are just like destined for stardom. They're so like they have such idiosyncratic looks. Dennis Quaid is just gorgeous, and Daniel Stern is just the way he talks, the way his look is. He's tall, lanky. I mean, it's just these guys are born performers.
When I saw that Dennis Quaid was in it and how he looks like a young Adonis, I was shocked that he wasn't the main character. I was like, oh, Dennis Quaid's gonna be the guy on the bike, and I was like, oh no, he's not.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would love to learn a little bit more about like how the casting took place or whatever, but nonetheless, really really cool opening scene where they're at this quarry, which is like stunning. I mean, this location is incredible, and I immediately went to Wikipedia or whatever, went to the Googles to find out, all right, what is the deal with this place? Like, is this still around? Like, can this be accessed any longer? So I'm going to get much more into some stuff that I discovered when we do our Beyond the Slipstream episode for this week. But I can say that this quarry still exists, is still in operation. However, that that massive like pool that they're swimming in throughout this film is basically all filled in now. There's like one little corner of it that's like still got water in it. But if you'll recall, the one of the scenes where they're there and a bunch of students from the university show up and they look over and they're on like this like really high cliff and the guy dives off. I mean, it was probably close to 100 feet high. I think it was shut down because like lots of college students were going out there and diving in that cliff and diving off those cliffs, and it's super dangerous, obviously. But what a location! I mean, just incredible the way that the rocks that the four main characters are always like kind of sitting on, they're like jutting out at an angle, making like this like natural like diving perch. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning.
So you have to figure that they were cutting something there at that point, at some point, and like it broke or whatever and got and stuck in that way. What I found really interesting was like the way they would like lay on it and lean on it, where they would take like a cut edge as their base, but then they were able to like recline all the way back.
Oh, fantastic!
It was
shots.
super cool. And you're absolutely right. I was having a problem with that part of the movie playing when I was in the followed the link. That's why I was thinking the bike was the first part, because that was where it finally started working for me.
Well, there was one, I think, one thing that was sort of left out that I would have liked a little bit, and that was there was no reason given for Dave's like interest in cycling and his obsession with the Italians that I could discern.
Okay. Well, he like won that bike, and I think the bike is what got him into the Italian thing.
How did he win the bike? I missed that.
I feel like one of the guys like just offhandedly was like, "Oh, you're just into Italian things because you won that Italian bike." It was like that quick of a line, but I definitely remember them saying something about him winning that Italian bike, and I'm pretty sure that that's what kind of started the ball rolling for him, so to speak.
Yeah, so that was the scene that you were referring to that came directly after the quarry scene was Dave rolling down the street on the bike. And he's like singing these Italian songs. I mean, they start painting this picture of this kid who is just obsessed with Italian cycling, which of course it's like right in my sweet spot. Like I just love old cycling stuff. I mean, you can see the jerseys back here. You can see the hats up here. Like, and of course I had to wear this. It's not exactly the same as the one Dave is wearing in the movie, but it is the yellow Campanolo hat. His has the Italian stripes on his in the movie, red, white, and green. These have like the world championship rainbow bands on it, this hat. So not exactly the same one, but I adore
pretty good.
That hat. I mean, that whole look that he has where he's like wearing the cycling shorts, but then he's got the wife beater on, and then, the great like cyclist's physique. And then he's got the yellow campy hat on. It's just like, I love that look. Really an iconic kind of a look.
And I will say that him over Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid, broad shoulders, looks more like a sprinter than he does, anything. So Dennis Christopher's build was perfect for, be the one being into cycling.
Absolutely, and not that Dennis Quaid's build was not perfect, because oh my God, like that dude's abs are off the chain in this movie, and like he is just smoking hot in that movie. I think that they do a really good job in the movie of sort of like building this dichotomy between like the townies and the college students, and we get our first like look at it when they are I think Dave finishes that bike ride and he's like headed home or something, and we
meet his parents.
We meet the parents. A couple of incredible character actors, Barbara Barry and Paul Dooley. Paul
Dooley does such a good job in this movie. Like,
I think they're really great. I mean,
they're both really good, but like he just steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah, he definitely gets some of the funniest lines. Man. I mean, like I mean, like he's turned into an Italian. Ciao, Papa. Ciao, Mama. And then he goes, Rita Verci, not Arrivederci. He goes, Rita
Yeah, yeah,
Verci.
yeah, yeah. The butchered sayings were really, really good.
And like the details of the home life, like their house, like you can see like Dave has not only like covered his room with like cycling stuff, but there's like one shot where like the dad's in the hallway and clearly Dave has like hung up this picture of like an Italian like ruin or something, like some travel posters like out in the hallway and stuff like that. It's like slowly Dave's Italian love of all things Italian is like creeping out into the rest of the house. So
Um,
then so then you get to I think basically the next scene is like when the four of them are there and they're like watching the football practice, and this is where you
yes,
really start to get this delineation. You start to get some backstory. I mean, one, you find out that Mike was like the star quarterback when they were back in high school, but like I think he may have dropped out of high school and never went anymore, and he's like,
he's
you know
very
he's just
resentful of the whole thing because he's like,
right.
you can tell that he's like, I could have gone to college, I could have done something, I decided not to do it, and I mean, it's weird because there's that dichotomy that starts to come out in that, especially it starts there in that scene of like, it's almost like Mike's failure is contagious with the rest of them, and so like his identity is his failure, and so he wants everybody else to fail along with him, which I found to be like one of the weirder tropes throughout the whole movie. Was this like getting a job and succeeding was failure to them, you know what I
Well, I
mean?
mean, it's a classic trope, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to just become your dad. You don't want to just become like everybody else. Young people that age, they aspire to like this greatness. And I mean, in that sense, like that's one of the sort of things about it that I think is like pretty conventional about these sort of coming of age movies. One thing I thought was interesting though, 14 years after this movie came out, there was the early Richard Linklater later movie Dazed and Confused came out, and I immediately thought of like the classic like line that Matthew McConaughey's character Wooderson delivers in that movie. He's like, the great thing about high school girls is I get older and they stay the same age or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
And you have to wonder if Linklater was a little influenced by this movie, because Dave says these college kids out here, they're never going to get old or out of shape because new ones come along every year. It's
Hmm.
just like, very interesting. Like
Yeah,
same exact sort of sentiment, just in a more sort of fatalistic way.
I definitely wouldn't mind talking about that movie on Beyond the Slipstream. There's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot to unpack in that
yeah.
flick. It's a really good
That
movie.
that's one I'm due for a rewatch. It's been quite some time.
Um, there were some great one-liners, and one that I don't want to skip over that was in the beginning was when he uh, Dennis Christopher says something about shaving his legs, and he said they said something about he goes all the Italians do it, and so when he says, hey, the women don't shave there.
Yeah.
It's just like that's such a like stereotypical way of looking at it. And then and I can't remember if it was in the first scene with the parents or if it's like the second scene with the parents. The dad says, when I was young, I was tired and miserable. And I was like, God, what a great just thought of, you know, I'm tired and miserable. I want my kid to be tired and miserable as well. And it was such a weird thing because he has a crazy journey throughout this movie, which, where he begins to understand his son, and man, it's
Yeah, I mean he's like a big crank. He's sort of
yeah,
he's sort of the guy that those guys are desperately trying not to become. You know what I mean? He's
yes,
like on
100%.
the other side of it, and he does have a good story arc. So you get after the scene where they're at the where they're at the football practice. There's a terrific shot of Dave like on the bike in the classic outfit that I was just talking about, riding through the woods. You got the Italian music playing. I mean, just like absolutely iconic. Like that stuff. Those shots should be on posters. And then you get the scene where he's like out training and he's drafting off the Cinzano truck. You know, it's of course like this like Italian vermouth truck.
Yes,
Just
yes,
happens to be
yes,
rolling
yes.
through Bloomington, Indiana, and he starts drafting off the guy, and the guy's like giving him like guy's telling him like giving him hand signals out the thing like, oh, you're going 40 miles an hour, now you're going 50 miles an hour. And I'm watching it, and he's like supposed to be going up to 60 miles an hour, and I'm like, there is no way this kid's going 60 miles an hour even if he is drafting off this truck. But there's an amazing wide shot right at the end of that scene where you just like see him tucked in behind the truck like going across the frame. It's
Well,
really
and
nice.
then and he's like the truck is that truck ends up getting like pulled over, right?
Yeah, the truck gets pulled
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
but you know, Dave
Yeah,
Dave kills
very
off.
very Mentos moment in that area
Yeah.
in that scene.
Mentos. Yeah, you're totally right. I want to give a shout out to the DP of this movie. His name is Matthew Leonetti, and they get some like incredible shots in this film. I have to say, like I just love that shot. Shots of them diving off
Yeah,
the
the
rock
quarry,
at
the
the
big high
quarry.
wide shots of that quarry are so
And then
beautiful.
there's even some other cool shots that I loved, like when there's like a shot where Dave and Moocher are walking down the street, and and Dave asks him if he's ever gone to confession, and like right as he's asking that, they're walking past this storefront, but there's a reflection in the window of the storefront. It's of like a big imposing like stone church, and it's just like, you know, the looming Catholicism over them. I thought that was like very artfully done. And then like just right after that, when Moocher meets up with his girlfriend to go to the justice of the peace, you catch this shot where there's like this very Italian looking pizzeria in the background, and it's just like they put a lot of thought into the cinematography in this movie, which I really appreciated. Um, I also love the relationship between Dave and his mom was just like so sweet. You know, it's that classic thing where like, you know, the kid's like, you know, clashing with the dad, but the mom understands the kid so much better, and she's like sort of trying to embrace and nurture the things that he's into, whereas the dad is just like pushing back, and he's becoming an Italian, blah blah blah. Um,
Yeah, I mean the like the anti-Italian sentiment in this was really really crazy. Like it was super. It runs through the whole thing,
mhm.
even to the point of like later on when we get to the race. But when in the training scene, is that also where he gets the flat tire and sees the guys riding on the bikes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Italians who have arrived in town to start training for this bike race, are sort of like lurking on the edges of the film for a while there. So then you get that great scene with where Dave's in his room like working on his bike, and like I just loved this room. There's like all the trophies. He's got the Italian posters. He's got pegboard on the wall with his like cycling tools, and then he's got the bike on the stand, and that's so cool. And then right
very
after that,
American Flyers esque because that's what they
yes,
do in American Flyers too.
absolutely. And then right after that, you get the serenade of the sorority girl, with Daniel Stern playing the guitar for him, and I'm just like so metal, like what a badass, you know what I mean? Like I don't care about these college guys. I'm gonna roll up with my townie buddy playing guitar, and I'm gonna like sing in Italian for this sorority chick, and
Well,
of course the
so
chicks love it.
but it's also very interesting because when he meets that girl, he totally just pretends to be Italian.
Right,
Like
right.
that's like the you know a probably throughout. I think that goes on until the third act, really.
Yeah, well, it sets up I mean, it's a great plot device, you know, that they're setting up, you know, that he's created this relationship on a false pretense, which
Yes.
you know that shoe is going to drop at some point in this movie. But one thing that I loved in that scene is the way they intercut the scene of him serenading her with the scene of Dave's parents back at the home, like
Yes.
getting romantic with each other, and like the biggest laugh for me in the entire movie is when Dave's dad like takes out his pocket protector. Like they're about to get busy. It's like let me take out my pocket protector. Just so silly. So absolutely silly. I was dying at that. Um, Daniel Stern also gets a ton of just like funny lines. He's just a funny guy. Daniel Stern is a funny dude.
Yes, he is. So once once they, establish all of that, then, the first hurdle is like he wants to go participate in this Italian or this race that happens that's like a semi-pro race,
Right.
that's happening
That's
in
the
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 state.
race that the Italians are there for.
Right. And he's like, that's what he's training for this. And so even throughout at some point he goes to like, and I don't remember why he decided to go work for his dad, but he decides to go to work for his dad. Some of the other guys get a job or whatever, but it's always like, having a job is lame, going on. But he goes to work for the dad, and the dad, sees him training his ass off. Like,
Well, I think the reason he goes to work for his dad is because he had entered that bike race, and he he was like doing pretty well in the race. Um, he's like in the chasing group. Of course, the four Italians are all out front. They've just like completely dusted everybody, and he's he's well. Let's rewind because
yeah,
there's some other
you're
stuff
getting
before.
ahead of it.
There's some other stuff before that. So there's the scene where they go to the bowling alley and Mike goes in to like confront the like college assholes, and a big fight ensues. Um, I noticed in that shot that there's somebody wearing a T-shirt of the Little 500, which is the race at the end of the thing. I thought that was kind of interesting. Um, and then from there, you go to his dad visiting the rock quarry because you get the
That's right.
feeling that his dad is like just hates the fact that he's just like a used car salesman at a used car lot or whatever, and he's like he can remember the days. He's looking fondly back on his days as a cutter, when he was like doing real work, and like there was like an artistic side to it and like a manly side to it and everything. And he goes back there and he's just like, you can see how much he misses being there when
It was his
they,
identity.
yeah. And yet they've painted this profession in the movie as far from the kids perspective as like the worst possible thing that you could have, so it's really interesting kind of juxtaposition.
Speaking of the dad in the used car lot, because I am going to get to that later. Do you think he owned the used car lot?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. It seemed like it, but
So I
maybe
think that,
not.
I'm going to say that yes, he owned the used car lot because it certainly seemed like he owned the used car lot.
Yeah. Um,
I
well,
wanted your opinion because they never
he,
did
and
make it clear.
if he didn't, he definitely like ran it like it was his
Mm.
thing. You know what I mean? Because so yeah, so he goes back, checks out the quarry, and kind of is walking down memory lane. You get a shot of Dave training for this race where he's like on the rollers. I love that shot where he's like on the rollers in the rain,
Yes,
just like pounding away at
and
it.
the dad's like
Um,
watching him through the window.
right. And then he gets in that race and basically is uh, he's forced out of the race because the Italians cheated. Like he bridges up to the
Yes.
Italian group. He's
He's the
riding along with
he's the
them.
only one that can keep up with the Italians in this race. He's the
Right.
only local person that can keep up with them.
And
That,
this is like the fulfillment of his dream. Like he's
yeah,
riding
he's
with a
like
bunch of
so
Italians.
happy.
Like
And
this
I
is
think he's
great.
talking to them in Italian too at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. He is.
And then the one guy, I don't know what he pulls off of his bike to do that. I don't know if it was like a pump. Like I
Maybe
like
maybe it was a pump or it was just a stick or
it
something.
was
But
a
he
blue like
yeah.
piece of metal and he
Yeah, they do make pumps that are like
yeah,
that
yeah.
size and shape. So it could have been that. And he like jams it through his front fork and causes him to crash off
Yeah,
to the
just
side of the road.
pummels the bike.
And I
Does
and I think Dave is just like so distraught, not only at having like been knocked out of this race and not even getting a chance to finish, but also like his beloved Italians have turned out to be cheaters, and like
yes.
he's like, and it's then that he drops the whole Italian love and um, comes clean to the girl that he is, not who he was sort of purporting himself to be. Uh, but you know, which causes a little conflict, and she flees, pissed off that he's lied to her and everything like that. But all of this is sort of setting up the final set piece, which is the little 500, which is this race that takes place at the college, and it's like I guess it's like 500 laps or something like that of this racetrack, and like Dave's planning on, well, first Dave's dad tells him that he can't go. He's like, he asks him, can I
Can I
get
have
off
off work?
Yeah, for the race? And Dad's like, nope, no way, not doing it, not gonna do it. How does he come to end up being in it?
I think
he's
he's just like, I'm just gonna go. And there's also another scene too that's like a throwaway scene that I found hysterical with the dad. That happens right in and around there is when I think that it's college kids trying to bring back a car. They're trying to bring back.
Yeah.
First off, it's a Corvette convertible, like
Yeah.
a
It's
C,
gorgeous.
like a C2 or C3 Corvette convertible, which today you would die to have, and they're just like trying to push it back, and he's like, no, you can't have it. You bought it, no refunds and all this, and so there's all of that. But anyway, he ends up part of the. And I'm assuming it was a trope for the movie was they destroyed his bike. That was the other thing, was like they destroyed his bike. But as luck would have it, anybody that participates in this, little 500 gets a brand new Roadmaster bike to ride.
Right. Well, that's the thing. All the bikes are provided because they want all the bikes to be exactly the same.
And so conveniently now, they want to field a townie team. They've got 4 townies that, that could fill.
You get news that like they've loosened the rules up a little bit to allow for a one team from the town to participate. So of course, Dave is the one.
Well, of course, yeah, and the other guys, and they're basically like, yeah, we'll just let Dave ride the whole race, and we'll win. Right. That was like their strategy,
and the whole sequence there is just great. Dave ends up crashing and gets himself all bloodied, gets pulled out, so the other guy's got to come in, and the Daniel Stern and what's his name, Haley, or they're getting their asses kicked, and then who comes in but the super fit Mike is like, you know what, maybe football wasn't the way that I was able to distinguish myself, but hey, I'm still an athlete, I still got something to give. And he basically like gets them back into contention and sets up Dave for the win, which was like a nice little piece of redemption there. Yeah, it's you kind of knew he was going to win there at the end.
Of course,
very exciting little sprint finish against the jerk.
Yeah, it takes him on the inside.
And then we get, I thought, just the cutest little like coda at the end of this movie where they cut back to campus, and I don't know why Dave is there on the campus or something. Why was he did he decide to go to school or something? Or I'm not exactly sure what he was doing on the campus, but like he runs into a French girl who's like lost.
And now everything is French.
Right. He starts speaking French to her. He's like, about the Tour de France? And then boom, you get this beautiful shot of the two of them like riding down the street across the campus, like on bikes, and just a nice little.
Well, and what attracted him to the first girl was the Vespa. You remember, right. She was she dropped a book and she was riding a Vespa, and he was like, "Ooh, Italian."
Exactly. So, tons to love in this movie. Really fun. If you're at all a cycling fan, an American cycling fan or whatever, like, gotta watch it. It's just a must watch. It needs to be in your brain, because there's just so much to love about it, and I'm definitely going to be talking a little bit more about it when we get to the Broom Wagon. You got anything else to say about it?
No, not really. It was fun. It was a very I love watching these like time capsule movies that kind of take you back to a time when because it's just like the style of movie making is just so different today than it was, back then. And so it's neat to go back and watch these little time capsules and see, how people saw it. Like, it'd be so interesting to see that movie made today and what they would do with it. So,
yeah. Oh, I'd love that.
anyway, on that note, we'll be right back. We're going to talk some news and stick with us. We'll be right back.
Don't miss Beyond the Slipstream, our weekly companion podcast to the Team Bus, our domestique, if you will, dropping every Saturday in your usual podcast feed.
Welcome back. We're going to get into some cycling news. First thing is, so Victor Lafay was going to retire at the end of the season and has reconsidered and has signed with the Unibet Rose Rockets in an effort to boost the team's Tour de France ambitions. So,
what's this? What's this? He was talking about wanting to sell cheese in Japan or start a Croque Monsieur food truck.
Legit. Yeah, he was like
I love it.
disillusioned with cycling, and
He just wants to be in a truck selling sandwiches.
yeah, I mean,
Interesting.
tell me you wouldn't want to buy a croque monsieur from Victor Lafay.
From Victor Lafay.
I mean, like, tell me you would not definitely go to that food truck.
I do like the way cheese is an omnipresent part of any retirement plan for this guy. There will be cheese involved. Of some
One way or
fashion.
the other, fromage will be part of it. I'm happy to see this happen. I mean, it sounds like this Unibet team is going to be one of the teams that could end up with some of these sponsor exemptions and things like that throughout the year. So any time to make the racing a little bit better, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I like Victor Lafay. He's quality.
Good dude. In other signing news, Jayco has signed Pascal Ackerman to replace Dylan Groenewegen, who left to go to the aforementioned Unibet Rose Rockets.
That seems like an even money exchange right there.
Yeah. He joins Covey, Capiat, DeBont, and Vendrame on the list of major signings for Unibet Rose Rockets last year, or for this year.
Wait. For Jacob? Wait, I'm not. You said.
Oh yeah,
Jacob
I mean,
signed-
sorry, not for Unibet, for Jayco. Yeah, sorry.
So Groenewegen is going to Unibet Rose Rockets.
Yes.
And then Ackerman is coming on to Jayco, and he's got also coming to Jayco is Covey, Capio, DeBont, and Vendrame.
Yes.
Gotcha. Huh. That's interesting.
It is. It's a more rounded out team for them. So, Michael Leonard, the Canadian time trial champion, is joining EF, along with Luke Lamperti, who was also announced recently to be joining EF Pro.
I love that. Lamperti has got he's got a fire in his belly.
Mm-hmm.
I love it that he's going to the American team. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and that team seems to always, for me, to be kind of headed in the right direction. I wish that they would make. I don't know. I feel like I wish they would kind of go one way or the other with their ambitions, and either be like, yeah, we're going to be, a more classics one day race focused, or if they're going to really, I don't know. It's really hard for me in this day and age with Pogacar and some of these other guys to be like, oh yeah, we got Grand Tour ambition, and it's like, well, do you? It's like everybody has a Grand Tour ambition until Pogacar, jumps on the bike.
Yeah, it seems like the teams that can successfully compete in more than one discipline due to all of the just hyper specialization that has happened over the past decade or two, the ones that can compete realistically in more than one of the disciplines are few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talked about Visma Lease Bike this year having been very successful in the Grand Tours and also crushing it in sprints in a big way. But that is definitely the exception to the rule, because Yeah, a team of the size and level of an EF, I think I would agree with you. I think they would do well to sort of define, to limit their what am I saying, to limit their
Expectations.
focus, you know what I mean? I guess but you still have to, you still got to send somebody to compete in the Grand Tours. You
Yeah,
still
that's
got to
true.
have a GC guy and everything. But no, I see what you're saying. I mean, a guy like Carapaz, you feel like he can almost kind of do it on his own in some of these, stage races and Grand Tours. He's one of those sort of lone wolf kind of guys that can make things happen without much support. But that's not really a recipe for a podium
No.
in a Grand Tour at this point in time. You saw the likes of Nilsson Palace obviously coming really, really good in a spring classic. Um,
And I think those types of races suit him better. You know what I mean? While it was fun to watch him make a King of the Mountains campaign a couple of years ago in the Tour de France, I mean, like, other than that, you know what I mean? It's like, the level of competition is so elevated in the Tour that I don't, I don't know that Nielsen has the chops to be able to pull off anything more than a stage win
but
there.
do they give him some shots in the spring and then let him rest up and then send him to the tour as like a super domestique
I mean, it's very possible.
if they can get a viable GC candidate. I mean, I guess Carapaz is the closest thing they have to it right now.
Yeah,
Um,
as we get a little bit closer to the season, we'll do some breakdowns on some teams and really see what they have. So it's hard to say exactly what the landscape of all these teams is going to be until the rosters get finalized.
mhm, mhm. All right.
Um, so Sam Bennett is going over to Q36.5, another team that is just making massive moves, in my opinion. So, along with Sam Bennett, you've got Tom Gloag, Joey Pidcock, Mark Donovan. The Swiss team's going to have 5 Brits and an Irishman with Pidcock, Fred Wright, Dunbar, and then, like I said, Pidcock and Donovan. And then they've also got Chris Harper and Andro Maurice. And I mean, this is a team like, you
You say
know,
this team is Swiss,
yeah, they
Q36.5
are a
is
Swiss
Swiss.
team. Yes.
Um, well, if one was to judge based simply on the first names of most of the riders on this team, you would think it was the most white bread American team ever because we've got Tom, Joey, Mark, Cred,
Chris.
Eddie, Chris. Like, it's hysterical. And then Zandro,
Yeah.
just for good measure, Zandro. Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. I love seeing that. They're
Well,
just
and I think this
getting
is
the
going to be a
talent in there.
team,
And
especially with the reshuffling of the pro, the pro roster of world tour teams, that they're going to make races of really interesting, because they're going to be one of those teams that's competing in these grand tours now with all of these other ones, because they're high, they're probably going to be one of those 2 exemption teams that get the automatic bids. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with them.
cool.
Dorian Goon is going to be moving to Ineos.
Not Dorian Godon,
Oh, maybe it is Dorian Goodon.
Godon. I think maybe.
That might have been a spell check there. Charlotta Cool is moving to Phoenix to Koenig, which I think is a good move for her. And one that I think this if this doesn't tell you that Soudal is definitely going for a hyper focus on the classics and the monuments, Jasper Stuyven is joining Soudal Quickstep as well.
Yes, former Monument winner, I believe.
Yes.
Um, yeah, all right. Good. I like that as well.
So do you? Oh, sorry. One other big thing, this news item that I have before I want to get into my bigger topic for this segment. Premier Tech has now officially pulled out of the sponsorship for that team. All right. So no longer do you have Israel, but also no longer do you have Premier Tech.
Yeah. So as of now, they're sort of like named Cycling Academy, as a placeholder, right?
I guess something like
This
that.
is how we're referring to them, Cycling Academy. And they got the whole mess with Derek G wanting out of there.
I mean, it's just a disaster over there. I mean,
well, I read that Instagram post and some of those comments in there. People are like, genocide doesn't sell. Imagine that.
Well, it's disappointing to say the least because it leaves a lot of riders in limbo and not knowing exactly what's going to happen. You got that's been a massive exodus from that team in the last 2 months. It's
as far as riders go, I feel like that was the team that was like where old riders go to die. So like some of those guys should just retire. I'm talking to you, Chris Froome.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Froome really just needs to be take this opportunity and just get out of a bad situation.
Didn't Fulsang announce his retirement as well? He was there. Another guy.
And Biniam has been rumored to be going there, and who knows what I mean, like, God, I hope that he hasn't signed anything with them at this point.
Yes, that is going to be a story to watch closely.
Yeah, as it unfolds, for sure. Mm-hmm. What do you got before I launch into my bigger
I just saw a couple of things. Apparently, there are people making strong cases for charging people to stand on the roadside to watch bike races, certain areas in certain places, and that like there are reasonable voices within cycling saying this sport is balanced on the edge of a razor, because it costs so much, and the fandom is only so large, and it's very hard to keep teams afloat without angel investors and Saudi oil money coming in to take care of it for you. And there's a giant revenue source at the top of several mountains every year, and they're like, you could just set up some kind of perimeter and €5 to come past here if you want to be up there, part of those people screaming and yelling. And the of course old school fans or whatever, they're the one faction that's just like, no, this is like one of the coolest things ever about cycling and its fandom is that bike races are free. Anybody, the whole country can turn out and watch the bike race. It's very egalitarian, and it seems like it would be an absolute shame. And the thing about it is, it's like, well, they're not proposing that every single person standing on a roadside ever watching a bike race will now be a paying customer the way it is in, football or baseball or whatever. They're simply saying at some places, where the biggest crowds go or whatever, let's charge at those places. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think so. First off, I think it's a slippery slope, because it's like once you start charging for things, when do you stop charging for things? And so
you don't.
Exactly. So my gut says if you're providing some sort of elevated fan experience that's above and beyond standing on the side of the road, maybe it's a grandstand situation, maybe it's this, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, because if you're getting something more than, if you're getting a little, like if spending a little extra, spending a little money is going to get you some sort of better access or better view, I don't necessarily have a problem with it.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't expect to be able to sit in the grandstand in Roubaix, in the velodrome without
some sort of ticket.
Shekels. That seems reasonable.
Now, the part where it makes me wonder, like, okay, who gets the money? Okay, because at this point, the way that it works, at least in your Grand Tours, is essentially the town is footing the bill for the extra revenue that they're getting from, the masses of people coming in. All right. So is the town getting the extra revenue to help, defer their cost? Is it going to the UCI to, you know, cover, the doping costs, or, the testing costs and infrastructure costs? Like, I guess it would really depend on where the money comes from, what you get for the money, before I could really say that I think it's a good or a bad idea. Obviously, you can just go stand. You don't have to pay. You can just go stand over here and watch the race, and that's a totally viable option. And maybe you don't get to be right by the finish line or whatever, because that costs a little bit of money. But if you want the free option, it's there. And no offense, that other than atmosphere and seeing the exact end of the race, there's not much of a difference between being on the side of the road where you can actually see everybody and, or be in a feed zone where you might get a beat on is, way, in my opinion, way cooler. But it's like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it because I don't know how it would work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll be easier to, render opinions as it becomes more clear what the machinations of it would be. I mean, there's, at a base level, there's a part of me that's just like, I'm going to Alpe d'Huez to, stand in the crowds and just be a part of that scene. I gotta, if it's a reasonable amount, I gotta throw down €5 to go past the checkpoint here, and then I'm good to go. Like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And sometimes there's 500,000 people up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could make some serious money that really wouldn't necessarily like hit people all that hard.
No, I agree.
Anybody that has the means to get themselves to the top of Alpe d'Huez can afford an extra €5,
right?
For a pass or whatever.
But to me, there lies the slippery slope.
Because it'll be €50 in 10 years.
Right, because as soon as somebody feels like, oh, we could just make money from this, that, like I said, if it's a cost deferration purpose, I'm okay with it, because I want to see the sport succeed. But if it's for profit, then I'm not for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's leave it there. My other thing is that Greg Van Avermaet won the World Championship triathlon for his age group last week.
Holy moly!
Old GVA, still fit as a fiddle.
That's
crazy. Out there and crushing it. He is a world champion, and I love that.
That is crazy. Holy
Good
moly.
on you, Greg Van Avermaet. Those are the only two I had. You want to get into the main?
Yeah.
news?
The big news this week is Decathlon AG2R. AG2R is leaving. So Decathlon has a new sponsor, the French shipping and logistics company CMA CGM. So it looks to be that it's going to be Decathlon CMA CGM. A mouthful. But
what a tragic name.
I mean, is it really much better than AG2R? Come on.
No, it's not. In fact, it's much worse.
Now, along with acquiring the ownership of the cycling team and the sponsorship rights, the team budget is going to increase to $40 million.
Nice.
All right. Now, we've been watching, this team very closely. They've made a lot of moves. They've also have been developing riders, and right now, this team is just looking like they could just crush next season. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no way you cannot. You could argue that they are not one of the big five teams right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, they might be big four. I mean, they get rid of Dries de Bont. They get rid of Bastien Tronchen, Dorian Godon, Vendrame, Amarai, Sam Bennett, Cosnefroy, and Vic Lafay. All right, so all of those are all outriders on that team, which you'd be like, holy moly, that's a lot of quality riders.
Honestly, but here's the thing: as I look over that list, I'm like, I remember Tronchon doing well in like one race this year. I feel like Vendrame has not been around. Amarai is probably, I would say, the biggest loss there. He's been the biggest difference maker for this team. Sam Bennett is just seems cooked. Like he just, I'd be happy to have that guy out the door. Cosnefroy, I feel like is just the end of his career. He was a big threat like as recently as 2 years ago, but I feel like this year that guy did next to nothing. And Lafay also, on the downside of his career. I mean, he got a big Tour de France stage win a couple of years back, but hasn't done a whole lot since. So I would say in terms of guys going out, they're doing very well.
So now let's talk about the roster that's going to be there for next year. All right. The biggest, there's giant names, but to me, the big hope is Paul Seychelles. Mm-hmm. So you've got arguably the next guy, all right? The next guy that you were going to be talking about, like Remco, like Pogacar, like Vingegaard, like Primoz. This is the guy. All right. You've got Nicolas Prudhomme, who had a great year. All right. Yeah. A lot of wins. Matthew Riccatello, all right, who really showed out, this year in
tons of potential.
Yeah, tons of potential. Tobias Lund Anderson, Olav Koy, Tej Benoot, Stefan Bissinger, Felix Gall, Dan Huel, Paul LaPera.
Paul LaPera, that guy crushed it this year too.
Oliver Nason, Arelon Parapantra, Rasmus Pedersen, and Callum Scottson.
Right. Yeah, Rasmus Pedersen did really well this year. APP is a hitter.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like this is a roster. Yeah. Okay, like this is a team. Maybe it's not this year that they're going to hit the heights, but they've got most of these guys under contract for the next couple of years.
Yep, and they got a big ass budget.
That's what I'm saying. New sponsorship, which people are going to want to see results. This is a team that could really do big things this year and be very competitive against your Red Bulls and your Vismas and your UAEs.
It would be really great if they are competitive, and if Seychelles especially is competitive this year.
So, I'm very interested to see when things all settle down going into like January, and the picture becomes a little bit clearer. What because it's like right now I would put them up there with those three, and probably Little Trek right now. That they're going to be probably your top 5 teams next year.
Yeah, UAE, Visma Lease Bike.
Little Trek,
Red Bull Bora,
and
Decathlon.
Yeah, but
also Quick Step won.
Right. But I'm thinking more. Those are your 5 big Grand Tour teams.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where I feel like anybody could win out of. They're all going to have a hitter. All right, they're all going to have somebody that can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it may not be next year for them, but if Seychelles stays on the trajectory that he is, he's going to be huge. And we already know what Little Trek is getting. We already know what Visma has. We already know what UAE has. You know what I mean? And it remains to be seen how Red Bull, we'll see how they gel this year. But I don't know. I'm excited for 26. I really am.
As am I. Can't get here soon enough. I'm ready for the tour down under, for God's sake.
I know, can't get here fast enough, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
do you have anything else?
I do not.
All right. Well, we'll take a break right there. We'll be right back to take our first season 2 ride in the Broom Wagon. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're about to take a ride in the Broom Wagon. Matt, what do you got for us this week?
All right. Well, I'm going to pivot back to our main topic, which was the Breaking Away, the movie Breaking Away. And I want to talk about the Little 500, which is the race that they all participated in at the end of the movie. This is a real thing that has been going on the campus of Indiana University since the 50s, I think, like 50s or 60s. Takes place on the third weekend of April at the Bill Armstrong Stadium on the campus of Indiana University, attended by more than 25,000 fans. It's teams of 4, relay style. They do 200 laps, and it's similar to a Madison race, which is a particularly American form of track cycle racing, bike racing, where it's a relay, but there's only one rider on the team competing at a time. In the Madison, unlike in the Little 500, at least the way it was depicted in the movie, in the Madison, you're not all sharing one bike. And there's a really cool thing in Madison races where the guy coming in for the finish will grab the hand of the guy that's getting ready to start, and he will sling him. They do what's called a hand sling, where like they ride along and he pulls him and then he whips him past him to get him started. Really cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah, really cool. So obviously this movie was, one of the biggest things to happen to Bloomington, Indiana, and the fact that it like so focused, brought national attention to this school and this race. Well, after the movie came out, the race got even bigger, and there's a really interesting dovetail here for me specifically. Okay, so you'll recall 1 year ago, we as we mentioned in our intro today, we did American Flyers, starring Kevin Costner, who is my fraternity brother. I mentioned back then.
This is true. Yes.
Okay,
I remember.
So guess who the most successful team in the history of the Little 500 is?
Delta Chi.
The Delta Chi fraternity. Yes. And shortly after this movie came out, a couple years after this movie came out, the actual cycling team, the guys in Delta Chi fraternity that were the cyclists, had some sort of a falling out with the main fraternity, and they broke away to form their own team. And guess what team they formed? The Cutters.
That's fucking amazing.
They took the name from the team in the movie. They became the Cutters because they were no longer like on campus. They became like an off-campus team, and they've gone on to be the most successful team to date. Since then, they've won 15. I think they've won.
That's awesome.
15 times since their formation. In fact, they've almost averaged a podium finish for every single race. Their average placing in the race out of 12 is 3.7. So very close to averaging a podium.
That's awesome.
So nowadays the teams are all comprised of all college students. You have to be a college student. However, the Cutters team is often populated by like people from Bloomington who are attending school there. So it's still like a local team. You know what I mean?
I got you.
And often like off-campus students. They started a women's race way back in '88, which I love. That was the year I graduated high school. So, that feels a little ahead of the curve. The fact that they had the women's race since then. The race is still raced on single speed coaster brake bikes. And basically the teams have to, like, when you register, you have to put down like a deposit on your bike. And like, as long as, you don't destroy the bike, you get your deposit back at the end. But that sort of allows them to facilitate these bikes. But I love it that they're just like single speed coaster brake bikes.
That's
Like
crazy.
these are like track racing bikes basically. And the last thing about it, it's become like a whole like week-long festival up there. Um, it includes 4 other events beside the race itself. It's got the qualifications. There's an ITT. There's a thing called Missing Out, which I am not exactly sure how that works. I think it's a thing where like as you're racing, if your team like falls behind, like one of your riders has to drop out. But then there's like a way to get your riders back in or something like that. I think it's something like that, but I'm
Is
not sure.
there
I
is
should
there
review it.
any like video? Like, can you go on YouTube and watch this?
I'm sure. Yeah, you can definitely watch it on YouTube. Um, and then there's a team pursuit event. Those are all collectively called the Spring Series, and this is what I love. The team that wins the Spring Series gets a white jersey, and they get to wear it at the Little 500. So there's even like a jersey component. So pretty cool. Like, I don't know that I'm ready to make a trip to Bloomington, Indiana in the third week of April to watch this race, but I might. I don't know how far away Bloomington, Indiana is, but I think it'd be cool to attend that, especially now that we've done the movie on the show, and you know, it sounds very interesting, and I love it. So it's the Little 500. What do you got?
So I have just been having this amazing week of. So first off, this Melissa bike probably has the best social media of any of the Grand Tour teams. I mean, their social media game is on point. But Wout van Aert took his first trip to California this week with Cervelo and Red Bull
Nice.
to go and do a couple of things. So I put in a whole bunch of different Instagram posts where he's playing basketball with Reggie Miller. He's getting like a Lakers jersey. He's riding in Ferraris, like all this crazy stuff that he got to do. But it all culminated.
Awesome.
It all culminated in like a fun ride, like with local people. So part of all of this was on Thursday in Santa Monica. 3 pro riders, all right, named Williams, Justin, Corey, and Tyler, all Williams, all right, begin their 2026 reunion for Legion in Los Angeles. All right, so they're reconfiguring the Legion team in LA. These guys are all going to be on it. Wout van Aert went out for their group ride, for this community ride with them with Red Bull. And it's really cool. To me it signals a change here where even the European teams are making an effort via their American sponsorships to try to invigorate cycling back again in the United States. And it's things like this that are going to bridge the gap between them that I think is such a cool way to do things. I mean, it's like, Wout van Aert is so charismatic and looks, I mean, he's got the look, he's got the whole thing. And to see him, spending time doing all these American things it's just been really fun to watch all week. So, if you're not following Team Visma Lisa Bike on Instagram, go follow them immediately. You will love the content you get from them. It really, really is. They do great. YouTube videos. They do great Instagram posts. They do a lot, but you get such a great window into like the side. The things that are happening on the side. So it was really, really neat to see. To see all these Californian interactions with one of our favorite riders, Wout van Aert.
Is Cervelo in America?
Cervelo has like a LA
Like in that video,
based.
in that video where they're
Yeah,
touring
they're like,
Cervelo, is that over here?
mm-hmm.
Interesting. You know why he's talking to Reggie Miller, right?
Because Reggie Miller's like super into cycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. Very cool. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we've already talked at length about how American professional cycling racing is on the come up right now with the massive expansion next year, going from 1 day of Maryland Cycling Classic to 3 days of Maryland Cycling Classic and 1 day of Philadelphia Cycling Classic and 5 days of Colorado Classic. Like bam, it's on like Donkey Kong, and men's and women's on at least both the Maryland and the Philadelphia stuff. It's men's and women's on both. I don't think the Colorado is, but maybe so. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's great news. And Wout Van Aert is the man.
Yeah. So, all right. That is all for this week. Join us next week for a review of the wild and surprising 2020 Women's Olympic Road Race, as well as a roundup of news from around the world of pro cycling. Until then, for my brother Matt, I'm Justin Harper. Thanks for listening. We hope you'll join us again soon for another ride on the team bus. Allez.
The Team Bus is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Allez!